Hey everyone, Fezzik here. It has been a long break, but I am back and I'm excited to talk about some more MMO content. And today, we have the pleasure of talking about Jigglesworth Sr., also known as the GUI Slime Saber mount, that Blizzard had just announced in World of Warcraft as a mount that is obtained by completing the Fated raids on normal difficulty or higher. So to break this down, we're going to talk about my thoughts, why Blizzard may have chosen this, and then what other possible alternatives may have been or are available that they could do instead of the current choice that they've made. So my view on this is kind of twofold. First off, I am very much a fan of having mounts specifically be something that you can achieve in game, something that's accessible, something you can earn. The Wandering Ancient was a cool idea, but honestly, it's not used very often. I don't see it very often. And if you think about some other mounts that are really easy to get, like the initial racial mounts, or the Undercity Plague Bat and Night Elf Hippogriff from the Battle for Lordaeron, those mounts aren't really utilized all that often. And I think a big part of that is because they are just common mounts. They're accessible, they're easy to get, they, tick up one more on your mount collection number, but they aren't unique, and because of that, I don't think a lot of people see that as particularly valuable or interesting, even to use on their own characters. But then you have other mounts that have required a high level of skill, like traditionally Ahead of the Curve, Cutting Edge, Vicious, Gladiator, or you have the other mounts which just require a lot of time dedication, like Ashes of Alar, Invincible. Those are mounts that people still use to this day and feel proud of. They think are not only are they good looking mounts, but they are mounts that they have earned. And so if this is Blizzard's goal, to make players feel validated and create value regarding this mount, then I think that's a good choice. My concern is that for those players who are not raiders, which I believe falls in the ballpark of somewhere between 85 to 90%. If someone finds a different statistic, put it in the comments, let me know. I'd appreciate it. But we are talking about the vast majority of the community who are not raiders, who don't have really any interest in raiding, and are now put in a situation where this mount was associated, at least psychologically, with a free mount in the original vote that came up where the GUI Slime Saber narrowly lost to the Wandering Ancient. With this being part of Season 4, I can understand that there would be a desire for Blizzard to have people interact with this new system. This is a different design, it's a different approach, and honestly, up to this point, I applaud them for it. Season 4 has been fantastic. My concern, though, is that what's happening is you're putting players who are not interested in raiding, other than for the mount, in a position where they have to play with players who are wanting to do the content, probably also for the mount, but also because they tend to want to do the content. And so when you combine those two, it's never really a good experience when you have people who don't want to be there. And so I think that will just tend to make the experience worse overall for everyone involved. I am by no means a cutting edge raider, but I've done my fair share of raiding, earned my Ahead of the Curve, been consistent with the Keymasters for Mythic Plus, so I can pay attention to what the boss's abilities are. But I spent 4 hours going through normal Castle Nathria, doing top damage, but we wiped multiple times on a lot of bosses that should have been relatively easy, and on Sire Denathrius, we wiped half a dozen times. And a lot of people quit. A lot of people walked away and didn't want to deal with that. And there were new players who came in and they experienced a wipe and immediately left. And then the raid kind of just fell apart. And so it creates this dynamic of discontent. And it made me wonder, having to spend those 4 hours with a group that was still learning the mechanics and going through the motions, a lot of players are not willing to do that. And maybe that answer is just, well, too bad for them. That's what they get. But my question is there a chance that it's actually too difficult to have them go through this for all the raids? Again, under the context that this is associated with a free mount. And to be fair, it's only going to get harder, especially if they're not doing other things like Mythic Plus to supplement their ability to obtain gear, because going through the entire dungeon, I got one piece, and that's not going to be enough to make things much easier if I was 25 or 30 eye levels lower than where I currently am. That would make Sanctum of Domination more difficult, which is already a more difficult raid than Castle Nathria, and that's going to make Sepulchre of the First Ones even more difficult, especially when you're dealing with bosses like Anduin that you have to beat before getting to the jailer. And this leads me to my question. Should there be an alternative to acquiring Jigglesworth Sr., like a more involved questline? Something kind of like they did for Nightmare. Maybe not one that is answered with just a weak aura, something that is more involved, that is time consuming, but something that players can do on their own pace, and that maybe it does involve some LFR, so they can get an idea and experience the affixes that have been added for the Fated raids, but will allow them to do so at their own pace and not necessarily have to dedicate a large amount of time in one sitting to beating these raids, especially when pugging like I was attempting to do for Castle Nathria. That being said, I don't know the right answer, and I don't know if there is one, but I would love to hear what y'all have to say in the comments below. If you're interested in content like this, I'm actually going to be streaming again on August 13th, this coming Saturday, probably at around 8 a.m. PST. We'll have to see. But if you like content like this, or like to talk about this, or see the new raids, or Mythic Plus, I don't know what I'll be doing, feel free to stop by. I'd love to see you there, twitch.tv/FezzikGG, and we'll see y'all around.